back to Billy Hughes and a speech in 1916 when they first set up the sort of precursor to CSIRO. It was about taking great science, and then it was mainly agriculture, to support industry for the good of Australia. So, whereas what you'd had was great research or science that was sort of in a tower, in a silo, often academic, and it wasn't getting out into industry. So the very essence of CSIRO is about this sitting in between great science, research and industry, and therefore we have customers. Our customers are, those organisations, industry, a lot of them small and medium business, and trying to work together to support. So a great example would be, the cotton growers. A lot of people think that cotton's not a great crop because it takes up so much water. The truth is that cotton now, thanks to great research from CSIRO and working with the cotton industry, actually sucks up less water than wheat. But people don't know that's all been about great research and developing new strains of cotton. So through that partnership, but our customer was the cotton growers, and therefore the customer centricity might take a bit longer, is a real orientation about solving their problems and bring great science to them. So very outcome driven. So that's what customer centricity means within CSIRO. It doesn't mean we don't need to do great science, and some of our scientists may stay in the lab doing pure science, because you never quite know what is going to be the next big breakthrough in terms of helping industry. The same applies to mining, where we've been very active for years, horticulture, energy, but there are some parts of CSIRO like astronomy, which is more about looking at the stars, and we don't know where that's going to go, but it could be some very beneficial in the future. So that's how we look at customer centricity within a science and research organisation.
As chairman of the board there, you have a different role than you had at Telstra as CEO.
Yep.
But nevertheless, being a very customer-centric person and leader, you would be, I imagine, translating that into that organisation in some way. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, but the role of chairman is very different to CEO. I'm there to preside over, I don't do it and can't drive it. I think you do it by firstly making sure that the articulation of why you're doing it is clear, in terms of you make sure that so the management company say customer service is going to be really important, but okay, well, help me understand what that means, help them unpack that, and then to help them understand how they could ask some questions about how they're going to do it. And, sometimes you can suggest, but it's still going to be owned by management. So there's that side. Again, culture is a really big part of that. What are the values within the organisation, and do they need to be updated, changed? And so you ask questions about that and give them some direction. And then there's the very real thing about which is how are we going to know if we're improving or not, and putting in metrics and the right controls, and you keep asking questions until things start to develop. So that's how you do it. So it's probably more influence than direct control, because the danger with a board dictating, the management are going to believe that it's right, and so we encourage them, but they've got to own it, and that's really important. So you've got to, as you work through that, you've got to make sure that that's what comes back up, not what you're just saying, and then it gets implemented. So, we're making progress.
Do you think the customer culture is strong within CSIRO? I'm just thinking you've got, it's a science-based organisation. There are a lot of researchers from around the world that come and are working on things that are important to Australian industry and business and so on. how far along the track do you think the organisation is in terms of its customer-centric culture? So it includes those researchers, it includes the back end of the organisation, as well as those that are in customer contact.
Well, with many of the scientists who work at CSIRO, they do because they're great scientists, but they want to make a difference to Australia. So that outcomes-driven, folks is very, very prevalent throughout the organisation. So that depth of character and personality and values is very deeply held. I think the translation of that into specific partnerships with industry probably is the area where we're just doing more work, because it's very easy in a science research organisation to get you sort of turn in because you're doing really tough science, and how you manage that relationship. So, for example, we have a relationship with Boeing that some Australians know about, but we developed a polymer that goes on every Boeing plane in the world that reduces the number of times that a plane needs to be painted by about 50%. Enormously value creating for Boeing, and a great breakthrough from CSIRO scientists. And Boeing actually says that we're one of the more customer-focused organisations that they deal with in R&D, which is great. But that's taken a long time to get there. But it's through listening to what Boeing's needs are, where their problems are, and then determining what we can do from a research point of view to really come to bear. And that's where we've got to emulate that sort of relationship. So we do it, more, but not enough. And sometimes these things take 10 years. I mean, that's the other thing. You're working on really complex, scientific challenges. So, but that's where we're trying to go. Trying to take that fundamental national good, culture and applying it into real relationships with commercial customers.
In CSIRO, is there a measurement system for the culture? You say?
Yes, there is within the traditional EE. It's not as strong as probably we had at Telstra, but we are actually just now going through a whole program of saying, well, what is that purpose of CSIRO, and what values do we need for the next 10 years as we go forward? Because like all organisations, science and research needs to change, and the role of publicly funded, we get $900 million from government every year, and then we get another $600 million from partnerships in industry. Where do we go? Digital enablement's changing the way you do science, data analytics, all those things. So, how do we evolve our culture? How do we, continue to be even more relevant to Australian industry? So, we're going through that process now, and I think we'll have an ongoing, measurement system to help us to determine whether we're making progress.
You know that I've been talking to leaders in terms of understanding customer-centric leadership specifically. Yeah. And in talking to a number of people now, probably 20, 25 people like yourself, I've come up with a number of factors or traits, I would call them.
Okay. I just hear them.
Yes, and I've got them listed on here.
Yeah. That's the case. I think I did read these last night. Yeah. Trusted, humble, empathetic, servant, which we've taught, visionary, questioner, collaborator, and courageous. Yep.
Yeah, and I've got them sort of noted
if
there.
I can read them without my glasses.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's okay. No, I think. Yeah. Well, we've talked about some of these already, haven't we?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my thought is, they seem to be all important.
Yeah.
But which, in your experience, would be the 4 or 5 that are
really,
centerpieces to customer-centric leadership?
Yeah. I'm not sure these are right. I mean, I'll just give you a reaction. I would say that trust is a critical element in the sense of transparency and honesty.